especially during Guru Purnima. And in Prabhupada's time, and still now, they had big festivals for Guru Purnima in Mayapur. And then after the Mayapur festival, the devotees would go to Vrindavan. So they would normally go to Mayapur, do the Navadweep Mandal Parikrama. So that means for 1 week they walk around the holy places in Mayapur and then attend Guru Purnima. And all the sannyasis would be there and all the other, many devotees and so forth, really ecstatic. And then they would go together to Vrindavan and spend a week or so in Vrindavan at Krishna Balaram Mandir, like that. So Prabhupada said that would be good for the devotees to do because, because there was a big focus on preaching, and often there may be some contamination coming because you're dealing with demoniac people, you're dealing with materialistic people and demoniac people. And also there might not be a lot of time to do really good sadhana, spiritual practice. You just do minimal sadhana because you're spending so much time just going out and preaching very vigorously. So it would be good to go once a year and just fully recharge and just clear any contamination or clutter in the consciousness like that from all the different activities there. And more hearing and chanting, a lot more hearing and chanting and things like that. So it's always good to recharge the spiritual batteries. And that was a great system. That was a great system. That's the 5 most powerful processes of devotional service are mentioned in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. One of them is obviously chanting the holy name. Another one is hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Another one is associating with devotees, advanced devotees, pure devotees. And one of them is worshipping the deities. And the final of the 5 is to reside in a holy place. So these are very powerful processes in bhakti. It's said even if one has a little exposure to any one of these 5, even without faith, even if one doesn't have a lot of faith in any of those 5 things, but somehow or other, if one has contact with any one of those 5, then one can very quickly awaken one's love for God. So they're very powerful processes. So what are the 5? Can you remember what I just said?
Holy name and association.
Yeah.
And deity worship.
Yeah.
And listening the Bhagavatam.
Yeah.
And 5th one is listen to the Abhay Prabhu class.
No, you forget the main one we were talking about. What's the main one? What's the main one?
The holy places.
Yeah,
holy places. Yeah. But then Bhagavatam class, because of you, I did not know these 5. It's because of you, I know this 5. So you are in there.
Okay.
So now it's the 6.
This fits into the hearing the Bhagavatam.
Hearing the Bhagavatam, or maybe it's you fits in association.
And that's true. Yeah,
yes,
true.
Yeah.
So that's actually both.
But yes, that's right. Okay.
Actually, I would say the association one is the main one.
Yeah.
Because all of them actually is done with association. You can't chant the holy name without association. I mean, where did we learn to chant the holy name from? Like Friday night at the Bhakti Tree, in the association of devotees. And, hearing the Bhagavatam, where are you going to hear it from? You're going to hear it from a devotee. And worshipping the deities. Who worships the deities? Devotees worship the deities. And living in a holy place. What's so special about living in a holy place is that devotees live there. That's what makes a holy place, is that there are holy people there. There are, sadhus, saintly persons are living there like that. And so that one associating with devotees is, that's real foundational. that really helps one to progress when he was association with devotees. Yes, so that's why we're having this soul searching, so that we can get together, have association with each other, and make progress in that way. Okay, so we're continuing our reading, but we'll offer respect to Prabhupada. Om Jnana-Timandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmalatam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master has kindly opened my eyes with the shining torchlight of transcendental knowledge. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto his lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Actually, recently was the anniversary of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's disappearance day. It was earlier on this week, so yeah, special day. Prabhupada's guru departed. I think it was 1936, if I got it right, around that time, 1936. He left on December the 31st, but this is astrologically worked out. So this year it was earlier in December. Great personality. That was the source of all Prabhupada's inspiration, was that he was just trying to please his Guru Maharaj, who ordered him to go to the West and spread the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Western world. And because he had so much love and faith in his spiritual master, that was the power behind his all of his activities and his endeavors in trying to please the spiritual master. And he said that is the secret of success in spiritual life, is to simply try to please the spiritual master. And how do we please the spiritual master? Very simple. Just try to follow his instructions. That's what pleases.
Make the dish what he loves.
No, I think that's a minor thing.
That's important, you know.
Because the devotees don't care about themselves. That's the thing. They don't care about themselves.
If my Guru Maharaj like okra, I love to cook okra, because he'll be loved that too. Anyway.
Yeah. Do you know what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's favorite dish is?
No.
You wouldn't believe it. You absolutely would not believe it.
The kachori was Prabhupada's favorite, is it?
Yeah.
Kachori?
Oh, okay. Yeah. One of his favorite.
What was Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's favorite dish?
Khichdi. Made from urad dal.
Khichdi.
It's the most basic, simple thing imaginable. Urad dal, and made from urad dal. With
the pickle and papadam?
That wasn't mentioned, but that's optional extra. But
did you make that on Monday for him?
Actually, I didn't know. No, I've been in gardening mode. Sad.
No, I just thought because you knew. I thought maybe you made it.
I know. I should have. If I was onto it, I would have. But yeah, it's sort of a bit of a permanent marathon here.
Yeah, no, that's
unfortunately. We need some extra hands on deck, some chefs and all different things, gardeners. Or even if there was some gardeners, I could do the chef work. Yeah. But it's amazing, like it's so instructive, you know, to just live with an advanced devotee, or even to hear about the activities of advanced devotees. You learn so much. You learn books and volumes just by hearing about a devotee. Because a devotee is actually said there's two kinds of Bhagavatam. There's the book Bhagavatam, and then there's the person Bhagavatam. The person Bhagavatam is the person that lives by the book. So their life is an example of what's in the book. There shouldn't be any difference between what you read in the book, which is about Krishna and his relationship with the devotees. You know, so you shouldn't see any difference between what's written in the book and the life of the devotee. It's a mirror. They're a mirror of each other. So yeah, amazing. So one of the things with Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he would put like copious amounts of salt over all of his food, to the point where a normal person could not eat it, even what to speak of enjoy it. It means it'd be impossible to enjoy that food because it was just so salty. So why did he do that? Just to show that a devotee doesn't eat for their own enjoyment. They just eat as a service. They just eat as a service for Krishna. And he was just doing that to show that we shouldn't be eating just for our satisfaction of the tongue, satisfaction of the tongue.
But if you're thinking like, if you eating because the Krishna resides inside you, and you are making that Krishna to have that a nice meal, you're not like Gulshan is not eating. The Krishna resides in me, you or anyone else, and then you're just feeding that Krishna. So what happened if like too much salt in there? That Krishna won't be happy.
You're on another level, Gulshan. You're on another level.
But it's
for
true.
ordinary,
Krishna resides
he's teaching
in
a
everyone
lesson.
you.
He's teaching a lesson to ordinary people. You're transcendental, Gulshan. But for ordinary people,
but no, Krishna resides in
because
you,
ordinary
me?
people,
Yeah.
well, I couldn't believe it. I get quite disgusted whenever I think about it. Like back in my home base temple in Auckland, they had a pizza night, like usually it was after the Harinam. They had a Harinam in Queen Street in Auckland every Friday night. And after that, back at the temple would be a pizza feast. And there used to be so many devotees come for that pizza prasadam. And it was a lot of devotees that didn't go on the Harinam, they would just turn up from wherever. And on another night where there's no pizza, just regular rice and dal and sabji or whatever, there'd be hardly anyone come to have that prasadam. But for the pizza, people would just turn up and they'd be mad for pizza. And it's all talking about pizza, not talking about Krishna, but talking about the pizza. And I got quite sick of it, and that put me off. I never really liked pizza that much, but that put me off pizza even more. The fact that we're so selective, that we like Krishna in the form of pizza, but we don't like Krishna in the form of rice and dal. So why are we seeing so externally like that? Of course, if you're an Italian body, if you have an Italian body or something, and you were brought up eating pizza, sure, offer that to Krishna. But even that's not what Krishna would be eating in the spiritual world.
Is there Prabhupada says that, for example, that Indian person, if he cooked a pizza or pasta, he definitely not cooking for Krishna, he cooking for himself.
I would say so. I mean, unless you're an Italian. Unless you're Italian, that's all you know.
If an Indian person cooking for pizza,
Yeah.
in the back of his head, that to enjoying.
Of course.
So it's like
so that's why Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati putting the salt there to show that no, you don't eat for your enjoyment. You eat as a service to Krishna. And it's so deep, and the consciousness that we have a desire to enjoy in the material world, and how do we enjoy is through our senses, and the strongest of the senses is the tongue. The tongue is the most. We say that song before eating. Sarira avijajal jajendriya taikal jiva fali visasagare tarama jajiwati loba moisadurmati. So that means the tongue, of all the senses, the tongue is the most voracious and difficult to control.
And the
Loba means greedy. The tongue is so greedy to taste, nice things.
And the genitals, these two things.
Yeah, the genitals very powerful, but it said the tongue is the first one you have to control.
You reckon?
Prabhupada said this, the three senses come in a line, in a straight line.
Yeah.
The top one is the tongue, and then the belly is below that, and below that is the genitals.
Yeah.
So if you put too much food in your mouth, that fills up your belly, becomes very tight. And if your belly becomes very tight and big, then that puts pressure on the genitals, and then you have the sex desire more. So actually, how do you control the genitals is first of all by controlling the tongue. Don't put in too much food. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave instruction to sannyasis in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that don't eat too luxurious, delicious foods.
Yeah.
Don't eat, just eat real simple food. Don't eat real opulent food because it's going to agitate. It's going to
Yeah.
agitate the genitals ultimately,
Yeah.
and that becomes problematic.
Yeah.
And he said, don't wear fancy clothes. He said, don't
Yeah.
eat too opulent food and don't wear fancy clothes. You know, just live really,
Simple.
the Vedic prescription is just do enough to survive, just for survival. You just eat to survive, have a house to
Or,
survive,
or,
just enough, just to keep
or
your said body and soul together.
if you look
Shariram.
at that a different way, like no matter how good the clothes are, but inside, if you're sannyasi, doesn't matter. Your clothes is made of the gold. Who cares? But inside you're sannyasi. But if it's had a very plain clothes, but inside is you are lusty, it's
Yeah.
no point to have a plain clothes. It's internal, not change. It's nothing is change.
Yeah,
If
I mean, it's not automatic that if you wear simple clothes, you're suddenly
yeah,
going to become
no,
more
yeah,
pure.
in
But however, still,
mm,
that 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 is possible that if you indulge in fancy food and fancy clothes and all this kind of thing, lots of money and so forth, then you can get infected by that mode of passion. You can
so
get
you
infected by
reckon
that.
that businessman can't be devotee
No, can be, can be, can
because
be.
he'll be
But you
too
can,
entangled.
a businessman can be heavily in the mode of passion, Rajaguna also,
Yeah, yeah,
heavily.
yeah.
Especially dealing with money in the opposite sex is very difficult to
Mm,
maintain one's Krishna consciousness,
very hard.
and when dealing with lots of money and the opposite sex, that
Yeah,
can be very challenging. And there's
yeah.
many even sannyasis and gurus that have fallen away because of those two,
Because of those, yes.
because of those two,
Okay. And
like
the
that. So
position, I
just to be
guess.
careful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Controlling the tongue isn't just about what you're eating, though. It's about also about how you're speaking and what you're speaking and how you're
Mm.
speaking towards other people. You
Yeah.
know,
Yes.
there's a lot about controlling your tongue that's not just about what you're putting into your mouth.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
that also makes it one of the hardest things to control.
Mm,
Because how many
yes.
times do you gossip about somebody,
Mm.
Yeah.
about a devotee, or put somebody down, or judge somebody, or
Yeah.
Mm.
say harsh words to somebody, or say just talk absolute nonsense,
Mm.
nothing to do with Krishna. You
Mm.
know, so much of our time spent not talking about Krishna. You
Mm.
know, so I think there's a lot to controlling the tongue that's
Ah,
just not
Mm.
about
I know
eating.
Yeah.
Bhakti Mala, you pointed out to me. I know that.
Well,
For everyone, we all have the tongue.
everyone.
So yeah, it said the tongue does two
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
The tongue does two things. It eats and
And
then
then you
makes
speak.
some noise, makes some
Yeah.
sound. So we control the tongue by eating prasadam, not other food. Even that is definitely some level of control to make the vow, the promise only to eat prasadam, because at least it stops us from eating unoffered food, bhoga. But the next level within that is even your own eating prasadam. But yeah, don't just go for the pizza prasadam, like that. And then of course the other part of the tongue is just speaking. So yeah, we control that by just chanting Hare Krishna and talking about Krishna and avoid that what she's talking about, prajalpa, gossip. So that's mentioned, you can read in the Nectar of Instruction, these verses that talk about how to control the tongue. Then you become, that said, that's the qualification to becoming a spiritual master for the whole world. The qualification is Vachavegam, Manasakrodavegam, Jiva Vegam, Udarpasta Vegam, Etan Vegan, Yo Vasahedadira, Savam Alpimam, Prithivam, Sashashat. So that's the first verse of Nectar of Instruction. So what that's saying is, you become a guru qualified to make disciples all over the world if you can control these things. So Vachavegam, that means the urge to speak. So that's what Bhakti Mala is talking about, the urge to speak. Vachavegam, Manasa, if you control the mind. Krodha, if you can control anger. Krodhavegam. Jiva Vegam, the tongue for tasting food. Jiva vegam. Udara pasta vegam. Udara means the belly, like what we were saying. Don't pack it up too much. You have to control that. And udara pasta, then that's the genitals. So if you can control what, you can become a guru. If you can control the speaking, the mind, the anger, the tongue for tasting, and the belly and the genitals, then you become qualified to become a guru and have many disciples all over the world. And then the following verse says the 6 things that are unfavorable for devotional service. 6 things that are unfavorable. Atyahara prayasascha. Atyahara means, and this is also connected, atyahara means eating too much. Eating too
Alpahara
much.
is good.
It also means collecting too much money. It means has 2 meanings, atyahara. So it means eating too much or collecting too much money. Both are bad for destructive to devotional service. These things are things that destroy our bhakti. Eating too much or collecting too much, more than what's necessary. And prayasa. Prayasa means endeavoring too much. You know, we shouldn't make too much endeavor for what we need. Whatever comes easily, you put in your 8 hours work or whatever you get as a result of doing your duty, you're satisfied with that. Prayasas means you just keep going more, pushing harder, 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day, 5 days a week, then 6 days a week, 7 days a week, day shift, night shift, just endeavoring too much hard. Prabhupada was even saying in terms of making a temple, he was saying, we shouldn't build the temple if it requires too much endeavor, not too much. Not to the point where we're always in stress and anxiety. We're creating too much pressure like that. We shouldn't push it too hard like that. What? Oh, Johnny thinks we're pushing it too hard here. I don't think so.
Oh, none of them has got any millionaire here. We all are poor. So that's okay. If you tell front of Kulvinder, that'll be a different ball game. I was with him on Monday. Actually, he said, "What are you doing? Come over." And then he's got a back pain, and he was telling about that. So what's happening? He said, "I couldn't able to stand." And then he's thinking he's going to India to get the treatment and all that there. And I said, "It's karma, man. What have you done in this life or past life? Pay back." And then
pushing it too hard,
He said, and then he working like too much. You got 3 service stations, 3 investment properties. I said, you just spreaded your wings too out, and that's
that's
why
prayasas. Yeah, that's prayasas.
Yeah, so
and
I said, where is the Mala Jhola? Where's your chanting bead? He said, it's somewhere. I'm gonna find it. It's somewhere. I'm gonna find it. I said,
he sent me a friend request recently. It was really nice, and I had a chat with him.
I said, you got for everything except the chanting time. You got time for everything except the chanting.
That reminds me. That's a really good point. One time, one of Prabhupada's disciples, they were talking about, when they were on a morning walk, they're talking about a disciple, and a devotee mentioned to Prabhupada that such and such devotee, he started working in a factory. And Prabhupada didn't say anything about that his disciple was working in a factory. And then the disciple continued talking, saying that he's so exhausted and tired after he's finished in the factory that he's not able to finish chanting in 16 rounds. And Prabhupada's walking, really fast, and he suddenly stopped when he heard that. And the devotees behind him nearly crashed into him. And he said, "What? He's not finishing his 16 rounds? He's an animal." And all the devotees' mouths fell open. Oh! Prabhupada just called his disciple an animal. Because Prabhupada can see that what's maintaining our Krishna consciousness is our chanting. And if you stop chanting, then your consciousness is going to fall back down to the ignorant, animalistic level. And if your consciousness goes back to the animalistic level, when you die eventually, where are you going to go in your next life?
Animal.
You're going to become an animal. So Prabhupada can visualize that, you know, that person's giving up chanting, they're going to become an animal again. You know, so that's the sign of that you're, how do you know whether you're over endeavoring or not? You know when you're over endeavoring when you don't have time anymore for your basic Krishna conscious things. Chanting 16 rounds, have some association with devotees, do some reading like that, you know, go to the temple or whatever like that. If you don't have time for these basic things anymore, then you're over endeavoring. It's really simple. It's not hard to
And
figure
then
that out.
his Kulvinder was home for like, I think, month and a half or something. He couldn't able to come to work. And then he said, I'm getting so bored. How much time I can watch the TV or things like that? I was so bored. I was only waiting for the evening. My wife will come there. Otherwise, nobody's at home alone. I said, that's a perfect time. Why don't you do chanting? Why
Yeah,
don't
that
you
would have been
read?
awesome.
Yeah, why
Yeah.
don't you read Bhagavad Gita
Yeah.
there? He said, oh man, I couldn't find where the chanting beads are. I said, next door is a bhakti tree. You can pick up the chanting bead and the bag any day of the week. We open every day. What are you doing? But then I just realized that no, it's okay. I'm just telling too much, and then I just walk away. I say, up to you, man.
No, it's nice you're trying to help him.
Yes.
He's done a lot of agyata security, a lot of
Yes, yeah, he
Kulvinda.
gave them free milk to a bhakti tree all the
Yeah,
time.
and all the car
And
parking
yeah,
and getting rid of rubbish, free rubbish disposal,
yeah,
and so
that's
many
right.
things.
That's
Yeah,
right. Yeah. So
Wait,
that's which is
very good
cool.
if we try to help
I
him.
was joking actually, you know, in terms of actually what work we do also, like, you know, I mean, I was saying, oh, we are overworked or whatever, but when you think of it in the context of when death comes, and death can come anytime, actually what we're doing is nothing. It's like that.
Jayanti's having an epiphany right now. That's good. Yeah, so that's unfavorable. Overeating, over collecting, over endeavoring. Then what we're coming to, prajalpo niyamagraha. Prajalpo means what Bhaktimal was talking about, all that gossiping about people, unnecessary things, just talking nonsense. Well, there's one recording of Prabhupada in the Japa recording, and Prabhupada's going Hare Krishna, Krishna, and then there's a break in it where Prabhupada says, "Don't talk nonsense. Chant Hare Krishna." I don't know if you've heard that before, but it's really cool hearing Prabhupada say that. Don't talk nonsense. Chant Hare Krishna. Yeah, so that's the best way to counteract talking nonsense.
Sometimes,
just
you know,
chant
we
Hare
do
Krishna.
prasadam. We make that in the temple in New Gokula, and then the gossip starts there, things like that. And somebody say in between, chant Hare Krishna and prasadam. When the time of cooking prasadam, you're talking about all the mundane talks. It shouldn't be. It's like that.
No, it's a kind of
it's
actually cooking for
offense.
Krishna is not any less than being on the altar. It's not any different than being on the altar. It's going to get offered to Krishna, so that's very intimate service for the deity.
It's a one thing there. Like, you know, I was chanting one day in my bead bag, and I was in the kitchen, deity kitchen there in the New Gokula, and somebody give it the dates. You bring the dates for, you know, just people bringing off that, you know, food, milk, and things like boga, and then it has got a paper on it, like a glad wrap or something, and I just take a look and just touch it there, and then one of the pujaris said, "Why did you touch with the left hand?" I said, "Because the right hand I'm chanting." He said, "Well, then you have to touch it with the left hand." I said, "I've got no other hand. There's only two hands there." He said, "You cannot touch with the left hand. Left hand is to be, you know, wash your bum." I said, "How do you cook the prasadam? You cook with one hand or both hands?"
No, that's ridiculous. That's like not practical.
It's like,
You have to. No, that's dumb. I mean, you cook with both hands, not just with your
yeah,
right
you
hand.
make chapati and everything. You do
Of
with both
course.
hands, like, you know. He said,
Nah,
"Why did you
that's
touch with the
pathetic.
left?"
Yeah, there's a lot of new things coming in which are not correct.
Yeah, I said you can't do with the one hand. Both hand you need for the cutting the vegetable, everything there. You make it a prasad with both hand. What do you mean, like right-handed for that and left hand for that?
No, that's just nonsense. That's
I
another
can't
nonsense.
see any logic behind it. And then
yeah,
here
but
we go.
if you're gonna hand something to somebody, you do it with your right hand, not your left hand.
If
So
you're giving if you're giving a gift, if you're going to give a gift or hand someone a plate of food, normally you do it with your right hand. Yeah, but I mean, you can handle stuff if you're cooking.
Yeah.
If you're cutting a cabbage, you'll be holding it with your left hand and cutting it with your right hand. You can't just do it with the right hand and chop your hand off or something. So no,
that's how
if you're peeling a potato, you hold it with your left hand and cut it with your right hand.
Yeah, so because left hand is for
that's
that,
real
right hand is for
stupid
that.
thing to say. You can't touch it with your
you
left
can't
hand.
see the logic. And I said, mate, use your brain. God gave you buddhi.
And if your left hand's dirty because you didn't wash it after going to the toilet, you should be shot and turned into compost. You shouldn't even be anywhere near the pujari place.
No, that's right. Yeah.
So I don't know. That's just silly. But and then Prajalpo, Niyamagraha is an interesting one. It has two meanings. Yeah, that's exactly a good example of Niyamagraha. Niyamagraha means Niyama means rules. Niyama means rules here. So it's being too fanatical about the rules, like what we're just pointing out, without knowing the meaning of the rules, the purpose. So you're fanatical about a rule, but you don't know why the rule is there. You don't know the purpose of the rule. You're just following the rule without knowing what it's for, without understanding the meaning of the rule. And the other side of the niyama is you're too slack with the rules. Both of them are not good, those extremes.
Yeah.
You don't care about the rules. That's not favorable for your bhakti. Yeah. And you're just a fanatic about rules, but you don't know the purpose of the rule is to please Krishna. Yeah. The purpose of the rule is to please Krishna. Yeah. Like that. But you act in such a way, being a fanatic, that you actually, upset Krishna by hurting devotees or something like that. It's just dumb. So we need to be, following the rules, yes, but not fanatically. Sometimes you make some adjustments. Sometimes you may need to make some adjustments and things like that. And you know what the rules are for. The rules are for helping you to always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. There's one beautiful verse we've spoken about before. Sadatam, what is that? Sadatam smarta. Smartavya sadatam vishnur vismartavyo najatajit savavidi nasadasyor etayor eva kankara. What that means is that one should always remember Vishnu or Krishna, and one should never forget Vishnu or Krishna. And all the rules and regulations, savavidi nasadasyor, all the rules and regulations mentioned in the Vedas are servants of these two principles, these two main principles. The two main principles to always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. And all the other rules are meant to help us to follow these two main rules. But if you're so fanatical about all the other rules and you forget the two main ones, if you've forgotten Krishna,
you defeat the purpose.
You're not remembering Krishna, and you're just absorbed and don't touch with your left hand, then you've missed the boat, mate. You missed the thing. Yeah. But and then Prajalpa Niyamagraha Jana Sangha Chalolyam Cha. So these are the 6 things. We've covered 4. This is the final 2. As Jana Sangha means associating with worldly minded people, association with materialistic people, bad association. So that one, we should avoid that bad association, materialistic association. And then, of course, we preach to all kinds of people, but we're not taking their bad association. We're giving them Krishna's association. It's like you meet some materialistic people. I meet all kinds of wild people out here, and hunters and crazy people. marijuana smokers and all kinds of people. But we give them prasadam, we give them prasadam. We try to inject a bit of Krishna consciousness in them, get some of them to chant Hare Krishna. But we don't take anything from them. We don't want to take any of their stuff. That's why I said, sometimes it's good to go to the holy place in India or whatever to decontaminate from, any kind of association we've had with, materialistic kind of people. But so that's recommended to avoid the association of, materialistic, demoniac people. And then lolium means greedy, being too greedy for anything in this material world is not favorable to our bhakti. We shouldn't be too greedy for material things. There's only one thing we should be greedy for. What's that? One legitimate greed.
Chanting. Or
yeah, something greedy in relation to Krishna. Yes. We're greedy to Bhakti. Chant in ecstasy, and that we're greedy for falling in love with Krishna. That when we chant, that tears come from our eyes. We're greedy for that, like that, for advanced Krishna consciousness, for Krishna praying, Krishna bhakti. This should be our greed. Greedy to associate with devotees. We're always thinking, how can we associate with devotees more and like that, have more time for Krishna consciousness. And so, yeah, we should only be greedy for things in relation to our spiritual advancement, but we shouldn't be greedy for anything in terms of our body, for any bodily things. We shouldn't be greedy for those things. You're just satisfied with whatever comes easily. Don't take too much endeavor for anything for the body like that. So those are the 6 things that are mentioned that can destroy our bhakti. So that's one of the things Bhakti Mala brought up, was talking gossip and that with our tongue. Yeah, so we have to be careful. But yeah, let's get to our verse for today. We're continuing our reading of Bhagavad Gita from chapter 10. Chapter 10. Texts 4 and 5. So I think we read the verse. I think we read the verse, didn't we? Text 4 and 5,
yes,
yeah.
Yes.
But it's got a big purport. Yeah. So did we start the purport?
No.
Yeah, we just read the translation, yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll just read the Sanskrit again.
Mm-hmm.
And then the verse, and then we'll start the purport. Buddhir jnanam sammoha.
Buddhir jnanam sammoha.
Shama satyam dhamma shama.
Shama satyam dhamma shama.
Sukham dukham bhavo bhavo.
Dukham dukham bhavo bhavo.
Bhayam cha bhayam evacha.
Bhayam cha bhayam evacha.
Ahimsa samatha tushtis.
Ahimsa samatha tushtit.
Tapodanam yasho yasha.
Tapodanam yasho yasha.
Bhavanti bhava bhutanam.
Bhavanti bhava bhutanam.
Mata eva pratag vidaha.
Mata eva pathagvadha. Intelligence, knowledge, freedom from a doubt and a delusion. Forgiveness, truthfulness, control of senses, control of the mind, happiness and distress. Birth, death, fear, fearlessness, non-violent, equanimity, satisfaction, austerity, charity, fame, and infamy. All these various qualities of living being are created by me alone.
So as we said last week, and it's coming up in there's 4 seed verses of the Bhagavad Gita, 10.8, 10.9, 10.10, Goshan's favorite, and 10.11. So 10.8, the first one, says everything comes from Krishna. We looked at that last week, Aham Savasya Prabhava. So everything, and here's some of the everything mentioned here. And some of these points mentioned are good, were so-called good, right? So-called good. Like, you know, we might say birth is good, and we might say death is bad, right? And we might say fearlessness is good and fear is bad. But actually, all of these things come from Krishna. So actually,
it can't be bad anything then.
yeah, nothing's bad. It's only bad means we've forgotten its relationship with Krishna. As soon as we forget God, as soon as we forget Krishna, then everything's bad. Everything's bad as soon as we forget God. And as soon as you remember God, everything's good. Everything's good. There's no problem. Like for a devotee, death is not bad. Death is like, well, we're going to Krishna after death. After death, we're going to Krishna. That's good. That's really good. You know, but for a non-devotee, death is very bad. They're very afraid of death. And so, yeah, the main thing is to remember that everything has a relationship with Krishna. And that's Krishna consciousness. What is Krishna consciousness? Is to be conscious of Krishna in every situation, realizing that everything has a relationship, everything has a connection with Krishna. And that's what it means to be Krishna conscious. You're never forgetting Krishna, always remembering. Like we said, the two main principles is to always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. And that's Krishna consciousness, like that. And okay, so let's read the purport.
The different quality of living entity, by the good or bad, all are all created by Krishna, and they are described here. Intelligence referred to the power to analyze things in their proper perspective, and knowledge referred to understanding what is spirit and what is matter. Ordinary knowledge obtained by university education pertain only to matter, and it is not accepted here as knowledge. Knowledge means knowing the distinction between spirit and the matter. In modern education, there is no knowledge about spirit. They are simply taking care of material element and bodily need. Therefore, academic knowledge is not complete.
Okay, this is an interesting one. So one of the points mentioned is knowledge, the second one, intelligence and knowledge. So yeah, Prabhupada's making an interesting point here about knowledge, that material education, academic education is not knowledge. Because actually the definition of knowledge is to know matter and spirit. But the modern education is only about matter. There's no education whatsoever about spirit. So therefore, it's not real knowledge. Because real knowledge means to know matter and spirit. So without knowing the spirit, how can that be knowledge? It's not. It's just half knowledge, you know, it's not real knowledge.
But that this knowledge also important to surviving. If you don't have a university knowledge, you cannot survive. Like if you don't know how you're going to be working there, you have to have some knowledge, whether you have even your gardening, you're doing that, you have some course, you do some knowledge in there. Even like if you become a doctor or engineer or a overseer or a road constructor, anything there, you have to have that knowledge to survive.
Yeah, but what's surviving? The body is surviving, and how long it's going to survive for. Even if you have the academic knowledge, it's still going to die. And then with that academic knowledge, when you die, where are you going to go, Gulshan? You got the PhD, BSc, MBA, and then you die in due course, and you're rich and famous and everything, as mentioned here, famous and everything. But then, well, what's going to happen when that person dies?
It's an expensive burial pot.
An expensive, burial pot.
But if you're looking at knowledge of education, like university knowledge versus that spiritual knowledge, both are necessary, because if you read the Bhagavad Gita the minute you're born, when you're getting older, how would you be surviving? It's like you need to be a food and shelter. In university, knowledge will provide you food and shelter, and you do need food and shelter.
But even that's not guaranteed. You're getting food and shelter according to your karma of your previous life, not according to your education in this life. I mean, we know many examples, even for example, Henry Ford, who was
Yeah.
super rich because he created the first car. He
Yeah.
never went to school. Did you know that? He never went to school.
No,
Henry
no.
Ford.
Yeah.
He had no higher education, Henry Ford. And one man challenged Henry Ford that you you don't have proper knowledge, and because you don't have an education. And Henry Ford challenged him because he said, on my desk, I've got this one red button, and all I need to do is push this red button, and I can have an expert in any field come to me right away and answer any of my questions. So how you can say I don't have proper knowledge? Because I just need to push this button. Means he's
So,
very intelligent.
but
That
then,
and that
mhm.
didn't, just by getting some theoretical knowledge from some school or university is not the only way to get knowledge. Some people are just gifted, with
Oh,
like
yes.
we're going to be reading in
Mhm.
this 10, 10, and 10, 11, that Krishna can give you knowledge in your heart. Krishna can give you knowledge in your heart.
So,
So it's not the only way to get some knowledge is through, sitting in behind
but
a desk listening to some
university
professor.
knowledge is necessary or not necessary?
Not necessarily. I mean, there's heaps. I mean, I heard devotees bring up this point that the richest families in India,
Yeah.
they do not send their kids to the universities. They give them some private education because they know if they go to the university, they're going to get spoiled. They're going to become completely spoiled. So they don't want them to go there. They're just going to mess up their character and their behavior and everything like that.
So if
Most people
there's
after a modern education, they come out completely spoiled. First thing they become is an atheist because that's what they teach, is that everything comes from matter and chemicals and there's no God behind the universe. Everything came by chance. We evolved from monkeys. It all started from a big bang. So they teach all nonsense stuff. It's not even true. And then in turn, the person, even if he did believe in God before he went to school, after he pops out the other end, 100% guaranteed is an atheist. And I mean, so what kind of knowledge is that? It's just completely brainwashed. 100% we become completely brainwashed. And, so even the rich families, they'd prefer not to send their kids to the school because they know it just screw them up. And they would rather just teach them some specific knowledge in relation to their business. I mean, if I think about what did I get out of my education, it would only be useful things I could think about would be I learned how to count, and I learned how to read, and I learned how to write. But everything else was pretty much a complete waste of time. I have hardly used anything else apart from reading and writing and counting. So you don't need too many years. You don't need too many years to do those things.
But
And
if you go to university and it allows you to get a job where you can earn more money than not going to university, and you put that money into service opportunities,
yeah,
like you and Jayanti have, and it's a good thing, it's good knowledge. And Jayanti's used her business degree so much in service.
well, what we would say is that whatever you're destined to get, like I said, according to your past karma, that's what you're going to get. I mean, because you're destined to get that certain amount of money or whatever, it came to you through having that degree or whatever like that. But you could have come to you anyway, even if you didn't have the degree, if you're destined to have that, amount of money. There's heaps of people that have become successful in businesses and so forth without having degrees. It's not only that business people are the ones that have a, BSc and PhD and everything like that, master's degree. There's heaps of very rich people that don't have all that academic qualifications. So, and on the other side, Prabhupada said this many times, just because you've got your degrees and everything, does that guarantee you're going to get a job? No, it doesn't.
But
Even I had that
because
problem.
And Jayani's saying she had that problem, that she had the
No, in
degrees or
India.
whatever, and she was made unemployed.
Yeah, in India, I didn't have a job at one stage.
Yeah.
And I wasn't getting anything. And that's when I got my residency to New Zealand.
Mm.
So it was like, it was quite difficult. I had an MBA in finance and I'd had a very good job and everything. But yeah, I lost it. And then I wasn't getting anything.
Mm. And
Isn't it good that you've got that knowledge now that because you were able to do all that stuff at the farm and like now with your like with your charity and stuff, isn't it good to have that knowledge that you have?
but she's just got a nature for that anyway. It's her nature, to make money and not spend much, so that's just ingrained in her anyway. So
No,
I
I mean,
disagree
I'm
that
not
you.
talking about the money. I'm talking about the
Hmm.
knowledge. The knowledge is being useful.
but then
Mala, to be fair, the knowledge that I gained in my university, or I wouldn't say that was of any use at all.
Oh,
If
really?
yeah, actually, I never used that stuff.
Mm.
To some extent, I would say, okay, when I was working, um, I learned a lot of things about people. Okay, and that was useful. And I also learned quite a lot of things about how to um, how to have some semblance of organization and planning in an organization so that people can work cohesively. Now, whether I learned that, I mean, you can learn about these things. There are techniques to do these things. But when it comes to applying these things practically, it's always such a challenge, you know? So I won't say that the experience I gained out of working was not helpful, but the degrees, well, I'm not so sure how much they really help
but
at
then
the end.
like devotees sending their kids to the school, well, they shouldn't. I've seen a lot of devotees there. They're good devotees, like senior devotees. They're sending their kids to the school and then after that university. So that means they should not, or why would they do that?
Well, just let me say one more thing from my experience, that I ended up working as a land surveyor and I never studied it. All that happened was a friend of mine, a devotee friend of mine, was a land surveyor and he engaged me to work for him and he trained me up from scratch. And I learned how to do everything that someone could do after having a degree in land surveying could do. In fact, I could probably even do it better than them if they'd come straight out of school because I had the practical knowledge, without even spending any amount of time or money studying that. So, you can't really say that you can't make a living and you can't make money and you can't get a job without doing the course. I disagree with that. In my own experience, I've done
And that's
heaps
what
of
I was
jobs
saying, yeah.
without having any academic knowledge. It's just about you do the work and you learn as you go along and
Yeah.
you become experienced and knowledgeable just by doing the work.
And that's exactly what I was saying too,
Yeah.
that what I learned was more probably from the work that I had been doing rather than from what I got out of my university or something. But however, one thing that helps is because having a university degree actually, in people's eyes, they think, oh, you have a university degree, you know, and that's what it helps, but nothing else. It's just for show. It's not for anything else, is what I feel.
And is that what a devotee should be motivated by, having other people respect me more because I've got some things after my name?
But then
Prabhupada would always criticize, oh, you've got MBP, and he didn't even know the abbreviations, so he would just create up something.
However, people are more likely to listen to you if you have that.
Yeah, I mean, if for
there.
preaching or whatever, you might have those things so to attract people to listen to you if you wanted to be preaching to the intellectuals or something like that. But in many cases, it can be a disadvantage even for making a living, because the employer is going to think, oh my God, this person is applying for the job. They've got so many degrees and qualifications. I'm going to have to pay them a lot of money, and I can't afford to pay them all this money. I'd rather pay some dipstick straight out of high school, 1/4 of the amount of money, and train him, and save me a lot of money. So I know for a fact that sometimes it can be a disadvantage in getting a job if you have too many qualifications, because that will mean the employer feels obliged to give you more money, which in many cases they
So
may
it's
not have.
like,
It
but
happened to
then
my sister.
And then she's saying it happened to her sister. She was overqualified, and no one can afford to employ her.
Nobody was willing to give her a job.
No one's willing to give her a
so
job because you have to pay them
it's
too
like
much money.
so
It's
devotees should not send their kids to school or university then. Is that what you're saying?
well, I mean, Prabhupada wanted the devotees to send their kids to gurukuls. That's why was he setting up gurukuls,
Yeah, but it's like
so
in
that they could go to the gurukul. And then after that, he wanted to set up, and that's what I want to work on, is called the Vedic College or Varnashram College. That the gurukul is for the young kids, and when they get older, you send them to the Varnashram College, the Vedic College. And that's what excites me, is setting up an alternative kind of college. Because I've seen how that, the people just get completely spoiled. They become completely ruined by all the material education.
But
I've seen with
then
my daughter, she's gone backwards in spiritual life going to university. My son, who never went to university, he dropped out at the end of high school. He's far more favorable to Krishna consciousness than my daughter. My daughter's brilliant academically. She's always been an A+ student and got scholarships and everything. But spiritually, she's retarded. Spiritually,
but
she's retarded, because
whoever
they just put so much junk in her head. That's not knowledge. They haven't put knowledge in her head. They put ignorance in her head. They put ignorance. So like it's saying here, knowledge means to know what the difference between matter and spirit. You tell me someone with a modern education that knows the difference between matter and spirit. They don't even know anything about spirit. Forget about knowing the difference between matter and spirit. They don't even think there is spirit. They just think there's only matter. So that's not real knowledge, according to the Vedic definition of knowledge, is to understand what is matter and what is spirit. And we can look at the 7th chapter text 4 and 5, which is text 4 is about matter and text 5 is about spirit.
But then
And
whoever invented the phone and Wi-Fi and all that, if they don't invent that, we won't be having the class.
no, but you would be having a class locally, like
Well,
when I
you're
was.
not locally. You went to
I'm
New
not
Zealand.
locally, but
Yeah. I mean,
but that you just will be having that, all those things locally. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, while the technology and whatever's there, we use it, but we shouldn't be attached to it. That, life still goes on without all these things. You just have to make some adjustments.
that's
And
true.
But
we
having
should.
said that, I mean, the Gurukul system has not really worked well. So I think, from my perspective, like Gulshan's asking, does that mean you don't send your children to school? Or
No, like I
think,
said, you need to know how to read and write and count and that, but you don't need to spend 20 to 30 years
But it's
to
like
read and write and count.
read and write not enough to make you money to survive. If you go for year 5, you read and write, you learn. But after that, you can't be anywhere to work if you just
No, I
only go to
disagree. I
school.
disagree completely. It's your karma.
Oh,
It's not about your, your mundane education that determines how much you have. Everyone's going to have enough to live.
but
And
like if you want to become an accountant to get a job, you have to do the Bachelor of Commerce, and after that you do that what you call the chartered accountant degree or whatever there to become accountant, and then you make yourself a living. You have to do learn certain degree, you need it for accountant and to survive there, to get a food and shelter. If you learn only just year 5 primary school, you finish, after that you didn't go to school, you can't be accountant, you can't be working the public servant, you can't be, you don't know how to operate
yeah, but I mean,
then,
I heard Prabhupada say in a conversation today that this is not business. He said business doesn't mean working in some stupid factory. He said business means growing your food, and if you have too much food, then you can sell the excess.
When
he said that is business.
On the Prabhupada's time, there was no computer, and now you can't survive without computer. So you have to move on according to the education. Yeah, Prabhupada says, you have to be simple living, but back in those days, Prabhupada time, there's no computer, no mobile phones, no internet, no Google, nothing.
No, there was a computer. Prabhupada was talking, the computer had started.
Yeah, in the dictaphone he was doing. If the Prabhupada now, he'll be live on the, YouTube.
Yeah.
But there was no such thing. But we have to move on according to way that
like I'm saying, we can utilize the things, but we don't depend on them. We don't depend on them.
But we do need it.
And if they become a disadvantage, then we reject them.
Yeah, but,
like if you go through the education and you become an atheist, then you spoiled your life. Sure, you made some money, but you could have made that money, by doing other things. I mean, my son doesn't have the university degree, but he's got an income, and it's a reasonable income, and he's happy doing it. And my daughter, it's interesting, my daughter, right, in their school holidays, right, they all try to find a job in that particular field. Like in this case, it's architecture. So in their holidays, say there's 100 students. There's 100 students, and in their holidays, like now, they're going to try to find work in New Zealand in the architecture field. Now, out of 100 students, guess how many found a job in architecture to do during the holidays?
I don't know.
One.
Is it wrong?
1 out of 100. 1. And that was my daughter. But and the other 99, they didn't get work. Now they've got, good knowledge from the university and everything, but they couldn't get a job. So I'm saying there's no guarantee that you're going to become, rich and famous or whatever just because you've got all the pieces of paper. The real criteria for getting X amount of money or wealth or whatever is your karma. It's your karma. It's not the pieces of paper. It's your karma, like that. And I bet you, Gulshan, if you look at the detailed lives of the Birla family and that, I guarantee they don't have a lot of degrees and so forth. And the Birla's like the richest, and what are some other ones there? What are some other ones? The rich families? Ambani's and that. I guarantee they don't all have PhDs and so many things or whatever.
These people are very crooked. They actually, what they do, they twist the arm for the government and the high authorities in there and trying to get the job done.
Yeah, but now you're going on to another point. Now you're twisting it to another point.
I'm not talking about that,
but you're saying you can't make a living without having material qualifications.
That's the thing. I'm not talking about these rich, but I'm thinking that education is very important. Without education, you can be only laborer. That's all. You cannot be like a
no.
How can you be a
Bill Gates and all these people are dropouts? They never finished.
Yeah, even like Bill Gates, she pointed out, dropped out from high school.
Hang on a sec. Whenever you are sick, you go to the doctor, you go to the hospital, and the doctor, they can't be 5 grade pass and say to the doctor, he has to study the medicine. he has to go through the university, whatever thing,
Yeah, that's
and then he become a
true. I
doctor.
mean, yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah, but
it's
do
like
you know what
you
happens if
do
you go
need
to
a
the doctor? There's
doctor.
more chance you're going to get more sick if you go to the doctor. I'd rather
Yeah,
not go to
but
the doctor
some
and
time of the
follow
life
some
you do need
Ayurvedic.
the doctor.
No,
You
but
know,
even Ayurveda
that's
people have to go and study in a college only. So
yeah,
for
that's
that,
right.
you
So
need a basic.
it's
I can understand what he's saying.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
see,
it's
I think
but see, you're missing the point, that, yeah, okay, this is some, some education helping our bodily requirements, but that's not the main goal of human life. The main goal of human life is to get out of the material world. And all that you're
yeah,
doing
but
by getting all your qualifications and everything is getting more entangled in the material world. And getting more entangled in the material world, is that a sign of enlightenment, or is that a sign of you're really dumb? It's a sign that we're
there's two
dumb.
different things.
The more we get entangled in the material world and your big qualifications and your big jobs and you're working so many hours and you're thinking about money night and day and
You
everything, what
need
does
a
that mean? That means, according to the Vedic standard, you're the dumbest person ever. The
think it's
real
like
intelligent. What's that?
you and Gulshan are like two extremes. Gulshan's saying you go to school till year 5. Well, yeah, you need more than year 5, but do you need a university? Maybe not. I think we need to come back to the middle somewhere
yeah,
here.
I agree with
You
you,
know, like
balance.
Yeah.
We need a balance.
bring
Yeah.
it in between somewhere.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm. I mean,
Because
even
you know,
Jesus
obviously,
Christ said, even
you need to.
there's a beautiful saying from Jesus Christ saying, "What profiteth a man who gaineth the whole world, but loses his eternal soul?" So, that's a beautiful thing that we agree with 100%. And Prabhupada himself quoted that he heard that and he liked that. That what's the profit if you gain everything in the world, but you lost yourself? You lost yourself. So in that's like 99.99% of modern society, they've lost themselves. They might have money, they might have a job, they might have material qualifications, they might have partners, families, cars, phones, everything. They've gained so much in the world, but they've lost who they are. They're complete. We've had this German guy, highly qualified. He stayed with us for 3 days doing some volunteer woofing and everything like that. And he's just lost. He's very intelligent and everything. He knows so much about everything.
He's
He's
so
a super brain.
Yeah.
He knows, everything about everything, but he doesn't know who he is. And that's why he's cycling around New Zealand to try to find himself. So what kind of society do we have? That's the
And
point.
he was agreeing that
And he was agreeing.
that's all this
The
is.
society is just completely crap, like that. So, that is the point that Prabhupada's making here, that without having any spiritual knowledge, then we don't have knowledge. We don't have knowledge. We're just becoming more engrossed in the body and thinking that's the goal of life, is to get your job and get your money and get your car and your phone and everything, and you're going to live happily ever after, like what they tell in the movies. But it doesn't exist except for in the movies. This guy was talking about that he's just suffered so much. He's had the education, the job, the money, and the relationships, broken up with partners and everything like that. And he just said, just suffering, suffering, suffering. And that's the fact, all this so-called knowledge without the spiritual component is just the result is just suffering, 100% guaranteed. So we're not saying, you can't go into university, but if you don't have that spiritual component to your life, it's only going to result in suffering. So is that what we want? So we're not saying, no one should go to university, but we're saying we need some more knowledge than what they're giving to university. We need to know who we are and why we're here, what our purpose of life is.
Balance. We need the university as well as
Completely
spiritual.
taken religion out of schools now too. So you can't go to school and learn anything about religion in primary
Yeah,
school, I
that's what
don't
I
think.
mean. Like, you should have to have some kind of religion in every school, some, yoga, meditation, something like that to be have that at least neutral. Like, you can't just say the Hinduism in every school. There's a Christian people there, there's a Jewish people, or there is some, the Muslim people. But there is some kind of spirituality has to be to focus, because then the kids can more concentrate. Otherwise, they concentrate on the games and the phones. Some kind of spirituality is there, but I'm not an education minister. I'm a small fish. There's a big sharks in the parliament, and they're the one running the show.
So we only criticize something if it causes us to forget ourself and our relationship with God. And that's often the case with this, modern society is set up in such a way to make us forget who we are and forget our relationship with God. So that's why Prabhupada would criticize, about the scientists and the modern education and the modern society of just working in factories and offices and so forth. Because it just often, the end result is people forget about God, godlessness. And then it's just tragic. That's just so tragic. But if you can remember God and you can work in your factory in your office and you got all your degrees and everything, that's brilliant. All glories. There's no problem whatsoever.
Yes, Sunday
But
you go to church, and then Monday, Friday work, Saturday with the family, Sunday must go to church, read the Bible. The balance is important.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. If you're a devotee accountant, that's awesome. A devotee doctor or whatever like that. But if you're just, completely materialistic, doctor or accountant or whatever, that's just complete waste. Completely spoiled your life, And in many cases, if you hadn't gone through all that education, everything, you might have kept some of your God consciousness that you had earlier in life, and you still would have had a living, maybe not as a doctor and accountant, but you still would have had a living. You still have food on the table, you're still going to have roof on your head, and you're still going to have clothes on your back. You tell me anyone that doesn't have the basic things. What's that?
No, in Australia, you study, no study, government will take care of it. India is the hardest thing. If you don't, but in India, doesn't have the social security benefits there. In India, if you don't work, you go on, buddy. In Australia,
no,
yeah,
everyone has to work. But I'm saying, everyone can get some work, educated.
Anyway, come to the verse.
Yeah.
There are many people like that. They don't have any jobs.
Yeah.
They've had so many degrees and everything.
Yeah. See, what you're going to understand also in this lining up modern society with Vedic culture is that as soon as you work for somebody else, which is what you're lining yourself up for if you study, if you're studying something, it means you're lining yourself why you're studying is to get a job. And it means you're going to work for somebody. And as soon as you work for somebody, what does that make you in Vedic culture? What would they call such a person that works for somebody else? Which varna does that make you if you're working for somebody else?
Shudra.
A Sudra. You're a Sudra. So it's just, a doctor or an accountant or whatever, he's a glorified Sudra. But it's just a Sudra. It's nothing that great. Better than a Sudra is to have your own enterprise. Like you, you had Gloria Jeans, so you have your own business. You're not working for somebody else. You have your own business and you can make some profit and everything. You have other people
as well. The head screwed, man. Own business is not a good idea because the mind is just doesn't stop. Man.
Yeah, no, that's always going to be there. But it's like at least you're not working for somebody else, and then you're just a slave to them, and you have to just do even bad things that you shouldn't be done.
Bhakti tree job
so you got a bit more freedom.
Bhakti tree.
So that's all it is. Modern education is just creating sudras, and what's so great about being a sudra? It's actually not an advantage for spiritual life, definitely, to be a sudra. And then you completely lost all your independence, and you have no freedom. And if your boss Like this one guy came yesterday down the road. He works as a mechanic for some mechanic people. And at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, he's working where at his normal work in Kaitaia here. And then his boss says, you have to drive to Kerikeri to do another job, as urgent job. And he's telling him that at 4 o'clock, he's already worked from 8 o'clock in the morning. And that's 1 hour he has to drive and then 1 hour back. And he's just leaving to go there at 4. Means he'll get there at 5. And he said because of the traffic, it took until 5:30. So then he got to the place at 5:30. Then he has to work for whatever time and then drive back for another hour. He isn't going to get home till like 8 o'clock. What kind of life is that? That's like hellish. And if you're working for somebody else, you have no freedom like that. And if you say, get stuffed, I'm not going to do it, he's going to say, well, you're fired, mate.
That's why I drive Uber.
So that being a Sudra is compared to, and Prabhupada said, being a dog. That's like a dog cannot live without a master, isn't it? What's the nature of a dog? A dog cannot survive without a master. So being a Sudra is compared to being a dog. And it's not a very glorified existence like that. So, Brahmana, Kshatriya, and Vaishya, none of them will work for anybody else. Because it's just who wants to be a dog. But in modern society, 99% of the people are like dogs. You have a master. You just got to.
That's why I drive Uber. I'm my own boss.
Yeah, it's just better. So I mean, I'm just why I'm bringing this up is like, well, what's so great about all this so big education? It's just making you a glorified dog like that. So but and like I said, people's whole life energy is sucked away. They work so hard.
Study so hard, work so hard just to survive.
The guy told us, he said, I was offered a job to get another 2,000 euros a month. But then the trick is that would put up his income into the next tax bracket. So then he would pay more taxes. So he said, if he took on this bigger job, he would actually get only about 300 euros. He got 2,000 euros more, but the extra tax would remove all of that, except for he would only get 300 euros more. And with the bigger job means bigger responsibility, bigger stress, more hours, more anxiety, more suffering. So he said, no, I don't want it.
My nephew in Germany, he purchased that $2.2 million euro house. And my brother is just proudly tell anyone, because my brother's son, I said to only ask one thing. Does my brother visit there in Germany, stay there for a few months and all that. He said, I bought a new house, please come, da, 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 da. I said that to my brother. Does he have a time for you? He said, no. He doesn't have a time for his own parents because 2.2 million euro, he has to work like a donkey in order to pay that. I said, what's the life? He's got an 8-bedroom and 3 of them en suite and triple garage and stuff like that. Him and his missus, only 2 people lives in there. I said, do you need that? Does he have a time? He said, that's the thing. He doesn't have a time. I said,
for a sincere devotee, that would be hellish. That would be completely hellish.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
And all the anxiety in that, you're not going to think about Krishna. How are you going to think about Krishna? There'd be so much stress.
You're working 11, 12 o'clock and all the time working, things like in order to pay the house.
Yeah.
Of course. It's like why would
so
you
actually a genuine devotee just wants to live a simple life, just simple life. We don't want big education, big money, big job, big properties, everything. No, just simple life. Why? Just get entangled more. That's why, a Brahmana on purpose keeps himself poor. On purpose.
Yes.
Not that he's dumb and he can't make a living. He on purpose keeps himself poor because he knows as soon as you get more money, you get entangled.
100%.
You get entangled like that.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Keep
that's
it simple.
The thing.
We follow the KISS formula. Do you know the KISS formula?
Yes, no. KISS?
Keep it simple, stupid.
Keep
Keep it
simple.
simple, stupid. KISS formula. Very important.
100%
We
right.
get too complicated. We complicate our life too much.
True.
We complicate our life too much.
Life is simple. We make it a complicated. That's correct. If you buy property in front of the waterfront, means you have to pay for next not 30 years to be work like a donkey. I mean, so I'm driving Toyota Corolla in my Uber. If I buy a BMW, next 5 years I've got to drive more in order to pay that. Why should I? I'm just happy that I have a Toyota Corolla and then does the job and pays my bill and thank you very much.
We're going to be so careful not to overcomplicate our life.
No,
Prabhupada tells a
that's
story. I just think if I can get it right.
Yeah.
Prabhupada tells about this simple Brahmana, and he just had one set of copings.
Yeah.
And then he only had one set of copings, real simple. And then one mouse.
Two sets, one he'll wear and one he'll keep. No.
Yeah, whatever. Anyway, it's not very much. Two sets of copings then. And then one mouse came and chewed on his underwear, chewed on his copings. So he thought, oh, I have to counteract this problem. So I'll get one cat, and the cat will eat the mouse.
Yeah.
But then he had a problem that he had to feed the cat.
And cat drink his
So
milk.
he got a cow. He got a cow to give milk to feed the cat. But then he had a problem that who's going to milk the cow? So he had to get a wife.
Hire someone. Wow.
He had to get a wife to milk the cow, to feed the cat, to
And
eat the
then
mouse.
three children come after that.
And then, it's like, and then you need the house, and then you got children and everything.
Yeah.
And he thought, after years of like that, he thought, damn, if only I'd just been happy just with a few holes in my copings, I could have avoided so much complications.
Yeah.
So like that, we just got to resist, overly complicating our lives, because actually whatever you're destined to get, that's what you're going to get. And anything more than that, it just creates stress,
Of course, 100%.
and just makes suffering, like that.
Yes.
Which you can't, fight our destiny. It's said that it said even the destiny is written on your palms, right? And on your forehead.
Yeah.
That, the lines on your hand indicate, what you're going to get in your life and everything. It's all fixed.
Yeah.
It's all fixed. You can't change it. There was another story that one servant was out getting some groceries for his master in one marketplace. And he was bumped from behind. And he turned around, and it was Yama, the Lord of Death, was there. And he was so scared that he saw Yama, and he ran back to his master and saying, I've seen Yama was there. Yama was at the market. What to do? What shall I do? What shall I do? And the master, thinking to protect his servant, said, here, you take my fastest horse and you go to this particular town. I can't remember the name of the town. And we'll just make up a name. We'll call it
Mayfield.
We'll call it what?
Mayfield.
We'll call it Mayfield. Go to Mayfield. Go very far away to Mayfield. And then the master was wondering why Yama had been hassling his servant. And then so he went to the market and he saw Yama there. And he said, why are you hassling my servant? And then Yama said, no, I wasn't hassling him. I was just surprised to see him there because I've got an appointment with him this afternoon in Mayfield.
Okay.
So it means you can't escape your destiny.
No,
if it's time's up, mate, that's
definitely.
it. You can't escape. Can't escape. So whenever you're destined to die, that's fixed. Whatever you're destined to, you're earning your wealth, that's fixed. Whatever food you're destined to get that day is fixed. Whatever partner you're going to have, that's fixed. whatever,
Running around.
kids or no kids, or whether you're
Mm.
beautiful or ugly or tall or short or
Yeah,
rich or
all
poor,
fixed.
educated,
Yeah,
uneducated. That's all in your destiny, So
yeah,
you can't change any of that. The only thing we can change is Krishna consciousness.
yeah.
That's the only freedom we have. We don't.
Can change.
And actually, that's a good point. The Krishna consciousness is so powerful that may change our karma, which otherwise is unchangeable.
Because they
Mhm.
surrender.
You're saying again, Krishna's the boss of Yama and all the karma and the
yeah,
demigods and everything.
happen.
He
Yeah.
can actually override that
You
stuff.
can, yeah, that's right.
Like Prabhupada said, if you clap in front of the deities in the kirtan, Hare Krishna, that can change the lines on your hand. It means change your destiny.
Definitely.
Hare
God can do
Krishna,
anything.
Hare Krishna. So that's the only way that it may be changed. And anyway, it's up to Krishna whether he changes or what changes. And, Krishna knows what's best. We should be happy with whatever our destiny is, our karma, and just surrender to Krishna, leave everything up to Krishna. So, yeah, I disagree that it's essential to get big qualifications and all this kind of stuff, big jobs. That's just a cause of entanglement. But yeah, if most people are not so intelligent, so okay, you want to be entangled like that. But I definitely wouldn't advise anyone that wants to be Krishna conscious to get more entangled.
Why
I
it
would
was so
encourage them to
important.
plant fruit trees.
That's why it was so important when you guys were doing all that prasadam distribution at the uni, giving all the students prasadam.
Yeah.
So important. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great
Actually,
service.
people can make money, so much money from prasadam distribution.
Mm.
You don't need a degree. I mean, of course,
Yeah.
they made it regulated, so you have to go and get one. I mean, you need a safety course or something, but that's all you need.
Yeah, I mean, it's so much profit you can make even from direct Krishna conscious activities. Like, how did they build all those amazing temples in Vrindavan, Mayapur, Mumbai? And that was through book distribution, just by devotees enthusiastically selling books. Even there was a devotee here in Kaitaia, a brahmachari came up. He was standing inside Pack and Save, the supermarket here. He said the day before I met him, he inspired one lady to buy a Srimad Bhagavatam set right from the front entrance of Pack and Save. And the lady gave him over $500, gave him over more than $500 and took a Bhagavatam set right there. So, I mean, that's a good money. That's good money you can make just from selling books, prasadam, like that. And we've made good profit from prasadam distribution and things like that. So there's many different ways you can make a living without needing, big education and everything like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like Johnny, and Krishna mentions, Johnny just mentioned also that everyone has to do some work. So it's not a question of whether you're going to work or you're not going to work. No, everyone has to work. But the question is, do you need a lot of academic qualifications? No, that's not actually not required. Not required. If someone is inclined to do all that stuff, yeah, there's no harm. But yeah, don't forget Krishna. Otherwise, it's all spoiled. It's all wasted. Like that.
True.
So yeah, that's an important point. So unfortunately,
Time is up.
our time's about up. But lovely to
That's
see you.
okay.
Sorry we missed out last week. Didn't work out with the timings
That's
and that.
okay. That's okay.
But and let me know how it goes with your holiday season coming up. If you're free and we're free, we'll continue. If you all need a break or whatever like that with family things or whatever things going on holiday and that. Giant and I are going away from Sunday to Tuesday, but that won't affect any of these sessions. But yeah,
I think
so
the next,
just
I think the next, like one of the sessions will be on Christmas Day, won't it?
we'll have a look.
I don't know. I haven't seen.
And then New Year's Day, I think.
Yeah.
I'm going to Melbourne on Christmas Day.
Oh, nice one.
So
I'm
we've
just
got
going.
Yeah, that's on a Thursday.
We've got
Christmas is on Thursday and New Year's will be on Thursday. Yeah.
Christmas I
next
might not
Thursday.
attend, but New Year I probably will, but we'll see.
Yeah, so we can just go with the flow, whatever
Yeah, go
works,
with
and
the flow.
just
Okay, yeah,
communicate
that's
with
right.
each other. But yeah, you all have a lovely time, and
Thank you.
always remember Krishna and never forget
Never forget
Krishna.
Krishna. That's right.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
take care.
Hare Krishna. Hare
See
Krishna.
you.